I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Patricia Colon. I am the Tobacco Prevention Coordinator with IU Health. I'm here to talk about kids, vaping, just kind of what's been going on recently. To begin my presentation, as people are starting to log in, I just encourage you, if you're not really familiar with all of the e-cigarette language or kind of what youth are talking about nowadays, here are just a couple of hashtags that you can type into Google or Instagram, and it just kind of shows kind of the behind the scenes of how and why a lot of youth are starting to use different types of tobacco products. So not just our regular cigarettes, but the different types of e-cigarettes that we'll be talking about today. So those hashtags are cloud chaser, vaping, and hand check. So when I took the liberty of just Googling them and cutting a little piece of it from Google. So for Cloud Chaser, we just have different cartoons for young children, but then also you see different e-cigarettes like this product right here. And then you also have somebody using an e-cigarette in this picture. Next, we'll look at vaping. So you'll see here, you'll just have a grouping of different products that are available out on the market. Here in Indiana, our age limit to actually buy tobacco has been risen from 18 to 21. So, but as you can see here, a lot of the pictures are of youth using e-cigarette products. And lastly, hand check. These are just different mod systems. So there are different e-cigarettes. You have your Juul and which are more of like the pod-based systems. And then we have some of our mod systems that you can kind of change and utilize differently. So again, kids and vaping, what parents and teachers and just community members overall need to know. So I built in some questions. So if you would like to type your answers into the chat box, you can go ahead and do that. So the first question is, what do you think 3.6 million stands for or means in the context of e-cigarettes? So we have one person that says the number of users, similar answer from another individual joining us today. And so I will show the answer. So in 2020, the FDA and the CDC released their findings from the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, showing that 3.6 million US youth still currently use an e-cigarette product, although that number is down 1.8 million from 2019. That is still a fairly high number. And we also would like to note that there is a notable uptick in use of disposable e-cigarettes by youth, and that means that 8 out of 10 youth currently use some sort of flavored tobacco e-cigarette. So next question is, what do you think 20 or 40 represents? Okay, so we have e-cigarettes used per month, the strength, the biggest age group. So 20 or 40 represents the amount of cigarettes within one pod or a disposable e-cigarette. So this e-cigarette here is a disposable one-time use product, and it has 5% nicotine salt e-juice. So that 5% equals about 40 cigarettes worth of nicotine. So for about a 3%, that's about 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine, so about a pack. And with that, for this specific model, as the picture describes, it's about 250 puffs, but that's different for every user. Some users could use multiple of these disposables a day, so they could be possibly smoking 4 to 5 packs a day without really realizing it. And here's just another graphic that shows the comparison between a pack of cigarettes and the amount of nicotine within each pod system. So a jewel pod, which has been very popular recently, this one has about 41 cigarettes worth, so this is about a 5% strength. One fixed pod is about 75 cigarettes worth of nicotine, and then one Soren pod is about 90 cigarettes worth of nicotine. So what we're seeing is that a lot of youth don't realize that, one, their product even has any nicotine inside of it, or that they don't realize that they're smoking more than a pack of cigarettes within a day or two. So now that flavored products have been taken off the market for the Juuls and some of these other products, we're noticing there is, again, an increase of youth who are using disposable e-cigarette products. So I just wanted to show a picture of some of the products here. And there was a question, is there a difference in price according to the number of puffs? So every product is sold or priced differently. So a Juul kit could be around $50, $60. I've bought in other products for less than that. So it's just depending on the maker and their discounts that they have. I've gone to different gas stations and have found some products for 99 cents. And the pods are about $10 or so. So usually you can buy 4, let me go back. You can buy about 4 of these for $15, and that's across the board. Typically, you can find them for about that price or less. And these are the one-time use products that still are available in flavors. So this is our biggest concern for youth right now, that these are available online and some in store, just depending on if they ordered before some of these companies were asked to stop selling their products in the US by the FDA within the last few months. As I mentioned before, e-cigarettes come in all shapes and sizes. E-cigarettes are battery-powered devices that allow users to inhale or vape aerosolized liquid, also known as e-juice, e-cigarettes, vape or hookah pens, and other vaping products like Juul, which is this product right here. Recently surpassed conventional cigarettes as the most commonly used tobacco product among youth, so it is critical that public health officials and the general public understand the potential risks of using them. And just to note, e-cigarettes are not FDA approved for tobacco cessation, despite any claims that they might help a person quit. So next, I will be showing a clip from the Today Show. They had one of their investigators go into a classroom to see if parents and school staff would be able to notice all of the different e-cigarette products within a classroom setting. Let's see if,
Take a close look. This student is outfitted with vaping devices, but you can't see them. Why? They're designed to look just like normal school gear, for sale online and in vape shops, giving kids new ways to hide their vaping habits anywhere they go, including school.
It's rampant. I think every administrator who has a middle school and high school are grappling with vaping issues.
Superintendent Melissa Varley oversees the Berkeley Heights School District in New Jersey.
It's virtually undetectable. We don't know if a student is vaping in a classroom.
So would you know what to look for?
We're taking over a classroom at this high school. It's filled with student volunteers. Thank you, guys. We're going to plant these hidden vaping devices and bring in teachers and parents and see just how well they do at spotting the vape.
I get to work.
Here's one that's designed to look just like a black marker.
Stashing stuff all over the classroom.
So this guy looks like a USB. It's not. It's a vape.
And on students, too.
Sophia looks like she's just wearing a regular hoodie, but underneath, a vaping device.
Some vapes even look just like school supplies.
Looks just like a pen, but the vaping device is inside and you can write with it.
Time to bring in our volunteers.
I'm Vicki Wynn with the Today Show.
It's nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Miss Moretti.
Okay, Miss Moretti.
Yes.
We want to know if you can spot the vape. So we have outfitted this classroom with vaping devices. Look high, look low. You ready?
I think I'm ready.
You get 1 minute.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
She spots a couple of them,
That device that Dom's got there,
but breezes right past most
I think that could be.
before time runs out.
And that is time. How many of you had a vaping device that she spotted?
3 items. Not bad.
How many of you actually have vaping devices?
But she missed 11 of the 14 items we hid.
It's scary. Because it could be just in plain sight.
Some teachers spot a couple of the more obvious ones,
That looks like one, too.
but most miss the harder to find items like this watch.
Sam is wearing what looks like a smartwatch, but you press this button, this part comes out. You can fill this with nicotine and it's an e-cigarette.
It blends in so nobody would ever know.
All 5 teachers missing this vape backpack.
This one's got a hidden device right here in the strap.
And I'm a hiker. I mean, this is the first thing I would think of as be a camelback, so that we can get water through it.
And the hoodie.
I think it's ingenious marketing, and I'm a little frightened.
This could be happening right under your nose.
Absolutely. It could be happening in my house. I have a 15-year-old.
Wow.
So now, no hoodies.
Even this school aide, a retired police officer, missing the watch and pen.
Very disheartening that there's so many out there that the kids can get access to.
What about parents? Will they do a better job spotting the vape?
I think that's a vaping device.
Not this group.
He was writing with a pen, but inside the pen,
Got me. I'm gonna go home and check pens.
Parent after parent also mistaking the decoys for vapes.
I was pointing at this one, but that looks fairly suspicious as well.
That's just a marker. And they confuse the real vapes for regular items.
what did you think this was?
Didn't even think to look at that. Probably a marker or an eraser or a highlighter.
The most any of our volunteers spotted, just 5 of the 14 items we hid. That's 36%, a failing grade.
It's very, very scary.
An eye-opening experience for both teachers and parents.
If you have to hide something, then there's something wrong with it.
Scary to see how easily they can hide things like that.
Parents need to be more invasive in their kids' spaces and really actively engaged.
Yeah, we reached out to the Vapor Technology Association. They told us they don't approve of underage use of these types of devices, and they're working to raise the purchase age to 21.
I will go ahead and get back to my presentation, but that was just a quick little video just to show that there are a lot of different products out on the market that are easily hideable, and that just to be something to be aware of. I would like to just mention 3 main messages for this presentation. E-cigarettes are not safe. Health risks are connected to e-cigarettes, and that e-cigarettes contain nicotine, and nicotine harms a developing brain. And that more than half of Juul users surveyed did not know that the products always contain nicotine. Also, many don't know why nicotine is and especially dangerous for teens. So I just wanted to quickly mention that nicotine can reach the brain within 7 seconds, the same time it took the brain graphic to fully appear. The area of the brain responsible for emotions and controlling our impulses is very vulnerable to nicotine's effects. So this is especially true for youth. Why? Because this part of the brain doesn't finish fully developing until about age 25, and that developing brains are uniquely at risk from exposure to nicotine. The risks include addiction, mood disorders, permanent lowering of impulse control, and potential harm to the parts of the brain that control attention and learning. And I also wanted to talk about popcorn lung. On the slide it reads, when inhaled, diacetyl causes, I don't know how to pronounce that, but anyways, moving forward, more commonly referred to as popcorn lung is the scarring of the tiny air sacs in the lungs, resulting in the thickening and narrowing of the airways. While the name popcorn lung may not sound like a threat, it's a serious lung disease that causes coughing, wheezing, and shortness of breath, similar to the symptoms of COPD. So even though we know that diacetyl causes popcorn lung, this chemical is found in many e-cigarette flavors. It is added to an e-juice liquid by some companies to complement flavors such as vanilla, maple, coconut, and more. So while diacetyl was swiftly removed from popcorn products, it has since been seen in additional products. And then Harvard research found that 39 of 51 e-cigarette brands contain diacetyl, even though we know these extreme dangers. Youth exposure to tobacco marketing. So here we see that a lot
Patricia,
of...
I'm sorry, we can't see the slides.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I turned on my screen share again. I apologize for that. Let me go back. There we go. Can you see it now? Okay, perfect. So again, 63% of Juul users don't know that the product always contains nicotine. Then we have nicotine reaches the brain in 7 seconds, and that our brains don't fully develop until 25. It's so important to just realize that what we do at a young age really impacts our future. And popcorn lung, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look or feel great. And back to youth exposure to marketing, given the widespread promotion of tobacco at the point of sale, so where you see the ads, convenience stores, supermarkets, gas stations, we see a lot of ads on the internet. Newspapers or magazines are a little less common nowadays, but still 2 in 10 youth see it there. But we're seeing an increase. We see 6 in 10 youth saw actors using tobacco on TV or in movies. And this is at such a rise, especially with some of those shows that portray older times, that they're trying to mimic what it would have felt like to live in those times. And e-cigarettes have gone back and forth between being very popular, but then we found out that it wasn't healthy for us. So we were on the decline of using cigarettes, and then e-cigarettes came out on the market, and it just took a turn because of all the different flavors that were attracting young adults and even youth. So this is a picture of just some other different products that are out on the market that are still available in flavors. And this data was from 2018. So it shows that 53.4% of middle school users are tobacco users, and 64.6% high school use flavored tobacco products, which is more than we've seen in the past few years. We're on the decline of having youth use any type of tobacco product. So now we're trying to just really get that it's not something that is healthy and really can cause harm to our bodies. So a recommendation for parents is to know the facts and to talk with your teen, but be patient and ready to listen. It's something that always an easy conversation to have, especially on a topic like this, and also set a positive example by being tobacco free. And we did get a couple of questions. I will be talking about the physical signs that parents will look for in a few more slides. And our next question is, how does Indiana compare to other states? And is it more common in rural or urban areas? So Indiana compared to other states, I would say we are a little bit higher than our surrounding states, but I think we have taken steps to lower those numbers. We added more restrictions to our Tobacco 21 legislation, which I think is a great step. So that prevents 18-year-olds walking from the high school down to the convenience shop to get tobacco products for them or their friends. But also, I think that in rural areas, you'll see different products. So Bloomington might have a higher rate of e-cigarette usage, but if you go into the rural, it might look more of the little pouches of tobacco or nicotine that has been kind of been a generational use for families. So how to help youth? Talk with your child's doctor. That's one thing that we've seen have been very helpful. I know a lot of people haven't been maybe eager to go into the healthcare system because of everything, but we encourage people to at least maybe call and talk with an advice nurse, or just have that conversation with their doctor during a well visit. Even if you don't think you suspect your child of, or somebody living in your household who uses it, you just never know. That's the one thing I hear from parents, is that I would have never thought that my youth would have been using this product. They hide them more places than I could probably count. You can check out these online resources. This is Quitting, Become an X.org, and smokefreeteen.in.gov. They have a couple of new resources that are great. So Vape Free Indiana is also another great resource. I can put that in the chat box. And then we got another question that, yes, all e-juices contain nicotine. The FDA does not oversee regulations of all these different companies. There are over 15,000 different flavors out on the market today, and it could contain anything and we wouldn't know. Some of the bottles will say that they contain 0% nicotine, but doing research from different universities show that it even has like the slightest amount, which is still causes concerns with young adults and youth. The Indiana Tobacco Quit line now serves youth as young as 13. So that's another great resource that we have just because we realize that we're not talking about somebody starting at age 18 anymore. We're seeing even third graders on school buses have these products. So we want to make sure that parents are aware of these resources to help their youth. So is what is the main source where kids obtain vaping devices and e-juice? So a lot, what I've heard from youth is you can actually find them on social media, such as Snapchat, Instagram. There are some places online that unfortunately all you have to do is check a box and click that you're 21, and it will be shipped directly to your house in a box that doesn't have any affiliation with anybody, so it's very discreet. But we also see not only kids getting it off of social media, but if they have an older friend that will go to the store for them. We've seen, unfortunately, parents who are unaware of what an e-cigarette actually is, provide it for their teen because they're like, oh, mom, dad, I really, really want this. And my parents were super busy, and sometimes they would listen and be like, yeah, okay, I don't know what it is, but if you've done your homework on it. So I think it's just a little bit of both of friends, family, and we've also seen that in our youth tobacco survey that we can conduct here in Indiana. So recommendations for school professionals learn about the different types of e-cigarettes. As you saw in the video, you have sweatshirts, backpacks, pens, just so many different products. So just spend an afternoon to Google it. If anybody is interested, I actually have a backpack that I do presentations on and can show physical different products. I don't have it with me today, but I'm happy to do so in another presentation. Also, develop, implement, and enforce tobacco-free school policies. That is one thing that we do have here in Monroe County. The students do get a referral to my office, and I then have a conversation with them about what type of products they use and how can I help them quit using e-cigarettes. Also, rejecting youth tobacco prevention programs sponsored by the tobacco industry. Surprisingly, they just know how to infiltrate everywhere. I am not funded by any of those organizations. My funding is from the Indiana State Department of Health, and we really enjoy just educating people and making sure that they have the resources that they need to quit this addictive drug. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to tell you the 8 signs potentially that your youth is juuling or vaping. So 1, a secretive attitude or a closed door, making frequent excuses to go to the bathroom or outside during gatherings, a sweet smell from their room or on their clothes. It's the lingering scent from the vapor, and frequent burning of candles, incense, or using room freshener to explain the smell. So a lot of these flavors are like cotton candy and fruity pebbles type smell. So if they're not really eating cereal or things like that, it could be, just something to bring up with them. An increase in thirst and dry mouth and occasional nosebleeds. The propylene glycol, which pulls water molecules from the mouth and nose. So I'm not very good about drinking my water. So it's just something to look out for, especially if your youth kind of is just gravitating more towards water or any kind of drink. A dry cough, attempts to conceal colorful plastic caps from pods and small electrical devices and cords for charging. So some of these products, again, they look like a USB drive that they put their homework on for school, or just they're really easy to disguise. So, if you walk past their desk, just kind of say, hey, what is this? Even if it's just a USB, they can be like, well, this is where I put my homework, or, just have a conversation. Heightened caffeine sensitivity. And lastly, signs of developing a nicotine dependence or withdrawal, changes in their sleeping, irritability, again, coughing, and frequent snacking. Communities can take action, get involved in the local tobacco control coalition, work to limit where e-cigarettes are used and sold. A lot of places here in Monroe County, we do see how close they are to the schools. We have a lot of gas stations, or even some of these smaller community-owned places that are within walking distance. So just kind of knowing where they are and maybe where your child frequents, if they're downtown, just kind of know just where they are. And also pay attention to how e-cigarettes are marketed. Again, just kind of looking at those hashtags I started out earlier in the presentation. They're hidden very well. I wouldn't have always necessarily known about them if it wasn't just for an afternoon search. Resources for quitting. Our office offers support for not only youth, but adults who are looking to quit smoking. My contact information is on the next slide, which provides a little, that can provide some resources that you can connect with me on. The Indiana Tobacco Quit Line, again, 1-800-QUIT NOW, is a resource for youth 13 and up and adults. They have different texting lines through the smoke-free text. Teens can text teen to 47848. And also Indiana has partnered with the Truth Initiative, which is an excellent program that also provides education that we utilize here in Indiana. And they have a texting line for youth. And it is utilized not only by youth, but young adults, but it's also that the people they're texting are around their age. So it's not necessarily somebody who's older texting a younger individual, but it's somebody who's gone through that process, who's gone through that withdrawal and knows what's the process and how to move forward with it. Because I think with quitting almost anything, it's very hard to do, but it is possible. And we just encourage people to kind of push through, because in the long run, 20 minutes, you can start feeling better, and up to 15, 20 years from now, you don't know how it can affect your health. So if anybody has any questions after this presentation, here is my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards, but I've gone over my time by 5 minutes, so I will hand it over to Beth, and I'll also put my information in the chat box. We have a couple more questions. What is a mod or pod explosion? So a mod, those are the devices that can be modified so you can have them at a higher temperature. So when you're heating something in such a small space, it tends to just explode. And also when you're adjusting those, you're more likely to open it up and take it apart and rebuild it yourself. And rebuilding it, that's not something I have in my wheelhouse to put together perfectly. So sometimes they are put together the wrong way and they explode, unfortunately. We've seen it on the news near a gas station pump. We've had individuals, unfortunately, lose parts of their jaw, or they've had to have surgery to fix that. It's definitely dangerous. I don't recommend rebuilding any e-cigarette mod system. And thank you. I had a wonderful time talking with you all and hope you have a good night.
Thank you, Pat. And next we have Beth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Sarchett. I'm the supervisor of the IU Health Outpatient Addiction Treatment and Recovery Center here in Bloomington. I appreciate being invited to speak. And just to let you know a little bit, we have a program where we work with individuals that have addiction to all kinds of substances and are in the process of integrating tobacco treatment into our program. And we at this point, we don't work with adolescents, but we certainly have plenty of 17 to 18-year-olds that do end up in our group and individual therapy. So anyway, I was asked to speak on prescription drug misuse and some of the dangers associated with that, and some of the particular drugs that tend to be misused more frequently. And I will start my presentation if I can share my screen. I will do my best to do that. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make that a slideshow, so hopefully that won't have all the extra stuff in it. Okay, can you see the full screen now? Yes? Okay, so I'm sure most of you are aware of all the prescription drug use and misuse that is happening within our youth. And I want to talk a little bit to both youth and to parents about what it is and what they can do. And I'm just covering a few that seem to be the more prominent drugs that are misused. So what is prescription drug misuse? Includes several different things. So borrowing or taking someone else's prescriptions, accepting them from a friend, from a relative, someone at school, taking something when you don't know what it is, taking more than prescribed, so having a prescription for a certain drug and taking it more often, or taking more than the prescribed dose, any kind of non-medical use of a prescription medication. And just, of course, if you didn't know, it is also illegal to take or share another person's prescription. And I want to just say, feel free to jump in with questions at any time or throw them in the chat. So what's the big deal about misusing drugs, about taking something if somebody offers it to you? There are a lot of short-term and long-term side effects. We know the developing brain in youth can be affected. We know that experimenting with substances, particularly if you have a predisposition, for example, a family member that has problems with addiction to substances, that it can certainly lead you down that path. You're more susceptible to becoming addicted to substances. Taking something when you're not sure what it is, can make it very difficult to treat. If you have a adverse reaction, you become ill, we may not be sure what you've had and how to treat you. It can interfere with other health conditions. So if, for example, you have a cardiac condition, you have some kind of heart problem, taking a stimulant drug such as Adderall or Vyvanse can cause abnormal cardiac rhythms, can speed up your heart rate, can be very dangerous. Likewise, taking drugs that suppress or depress the central nervous system, your brain, could interfere with your breathing, could slow down your breathing. So could interfere with conditions such as asthma, which is frequent in youth. And you could have a serious allergic reaction. And that does happen. So we talked about the effects substances can have on the developing brain, and this video is just a little bit of information about how this works in the brain, and it does include some other things that affect the brain as well, including video games, etc. Now I'm hoping that this will play, because I don't have my little play button, which is concerning. Might have something to do with the sharing. Let me see. Okay, this is where I might need you. When I did the presentation, there was a red arrow right in the middle to start, and I do not see that.
Beth, you may have to minimize your slides.
Oh, you're so good. Okay, let me see if that helps. Yep, you are right. Okay, let's see if this will work. This is the problem I was having last time, and I think I need to stop sharing and reshare. I think there might be a button that addresses the video. One moment. Let me see if I can make this happen. No. Sorry guys, bear with me. Can you see my screen now? Oh, no, you can't.
Here we go.
Okay, let me see. I still think this is not going to work.
Are you using two screens?
It is popping up two screens.
Okay, so it might need to be where you change what screen you're allowing us to view, because I noticed that on mine, I have two screens, so you'll need to share like
the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, I will try again. Okay, I'm going to try screen 2, but I may have to go back to screen 1. Now, what are you guys seeing?
We're seeing your desktop.
Oh, okay.
Was it a link, Beth?
Yeah, it was a link to a YouTube video. So I could potentially share that.
If you want to send me the link, I could screen share it probably.
Okay, let me see. Now what are you seeing?
A play button on, looks
The
like your
brain-
slides. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is, let me see if I can. It just won't. Oh, here we
There you
go. Thank you, ladies.
We're not hearing any sound.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I am hearing all the sound, so I'm not sure why you are not.
So when you share your screen, there should be like a little taskbar that comes from the top of the screen. You'll have to go to view options
Okay.
where you are viewing Beth's screen. There should be like a view options maybe, or like something like that. There should be like 3 dots and you'll click on those 3 dots.
Okay. And it will be, I've got record, meeting info, meeting controls, share computer sound.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
I told you guys.
Hey,
Let's try this again.
here we go.
As teens, people are always telling us what we can't do. Do you ever wonder why that is? Why can't I stay up late? What could happen if I just play for 15 more minutes? Who cares if I smoke a joint every now and then? Let's face it, adults may mean well, but they can't really explain why they won't let us do this stuff. The thing is, there's actually a really cool explanation, and it has to do with our brains. From the outside, the brain of a newborn looks just like a smaller version of an adult brain, but there's a big difference. There's a ton of stuff that still needs to be programmed into a young person's brain. That's where our life experiences come in. How we interact with what's around us shapes our brains until we're in our mid-20s. We can't feel our brains changing, but they are super busy building circuits and programming. So how does this happen? Every little thing that happens to us can change our brain in huge ways. At short distances, our experiences can make or break connections between brain cells. By guiding the creation of circuits, experiences shape our perceptions, memories, and everything that makes us unique. But they also affect our brain across longer distances. This involves the construction of thick bundles of fibers that connect different brain regions. By creating this complex network, experiences help increase the brain's bandwidth, allowing it to work better and better. You've got to keep in mind, these short and long-range connections are influenced by everything we do and everything that happens to us. But this is awesome news. It means we are the programmers of our brains. Every decision, good or bad, influences how our brain develops. Let's talk about taking drugs. For example, pretend this is the keyboard you are using to program your brain. Using drugs just for fun or to get high would be like scrambling the letters on the keyboard. Now, if you scramble the letters on the keyboard after the program is written, that can lead to temporary errors or make it hard for the program to run for a while. But if you scramble the letters while the program is being written, the program can incorporate catastrophic, long-lasting glitches. This is why teens are better off without drugs. We are in the middle of coding our brains, and drugs can cause real problems that can last a long time. And yet, drugs are just one of the many possible ways of scrambling our keyboards. For example, not enough sleep, lack of exercise, or eating too much junk food can also harm our brain programs. So yeah, I get it. It's annoying to be told what we can and can't do, but I would rather focus on my ability to shape my brain through smarter decisions. It turns out we have far more control than we thought. We can use this information to choose our own paths and give ourselves the best possible futures.
Okay. So let me see if I can go back to full screen again. Any questions so far? Okay, so you get the idea of how the developing brain is affected by substances. Oh, I'm so sorry. So what are some of the common prescription drugs that are misused or abused? Stimulants, obviously, I think most youth are aware of Adderall, also Vyvanse, Concerta, Ritalin, drugs that are prescribed for ADHD. These are commonly study drugs, as they call them, and they can have some serious side effects, including paranoia, obviously high body temperatures happen, irregular heartbeat I talked about, and if they're taken in other ways other than orally, so injecting or snorting, they can have much more serious side effects, and if they are taken in larger doses. So someone that does not have ADHD is often going to have a very different effect from one of these drugs. And opioids. So opioids, you're obviously still somewhat in an opioid crisis in this country. Common names: Vicodin, Lortab, oxycodone, OxyContin. These are all powerful painkillers. They're often given post-surgically for chronic pain. These act on the same parts of the brain as heroin, and I'm sure most people are familiar with what heroin is. They can cause drowsiness, nausea. They can slow down respirations, which is one of the most dangerous things about opioids. And they're one of the most youth will find those in somebody's house, whether it's in their own home or in the homes of friends. Benzodiazepines are a class of drugs. Most of us know those as Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, and these are tranquilizers. They're also depressants. So they, for people that take these drugs as prescribed, they're generally used for anxiety. In a person that doesn't have anxiety, they can cause even more serious side effects. Slurred speech, shallow breathing, disorientation, and of course, one of the biggest concerns if someone is taking these drugs regularly is abruptly stopping them, which can cause seizure due to withdrawal. The other thing is when taking these kinds of drugs and you don't have anxiety, they can cause a rebound anxiety afterwards. So you take one of these medications for a few days, and then the day that you don't take it, the brain has that rebound anxiety effect. A couple things that Donna and I talked about, drugs that are out there, kind of more of a street drug, if you will, is the pressed Xanax, a counterfeit Xanax that often contains fentanyl. If all of you are familiar or not familiar with fentanyl, it is one of the biggest concerns that we have right now in medications. So fentanyl, in its original form, is used as a really powerful painkiller. And to put it into perspective, 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. So pretty potent drug. These Xanax pills are usually a counterfeit or manufactured pill that has fentanyl in it. Can cause serious overdose and death. taken together. And so those are something new that it's out there, it's on the street. It can be easily accessible, but pretty deadly effects. And of course, the two big ones right now, fentanyl and carfentanil. To give you an example, this picture shows 2 milligrams of fentanyl, and that is a lethal dose for most people. So you can see just how tiny of a dose that could be. So if that is, for example, pressed into Xanax, if that is in another illicit drug that someone uses, it can be fatal.
Beth, we did have a question.
Yeah.
Is the pressed Xanax only in street drugs?
I have only known of it to be in street drugs. It is not a prescribed drug. So these are things that dealers are getting, and they're putting these together. You would never see this prescribed from a physician or with a drug company. So both of fentanyl and carfentanil are in the opioid class. They're both synthetic opioids. They're both deadly. So think about fentanyl being 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. Then think about carfentanil, which is 100 times more potent than fentanyl. So carfentanil, we're starting to see that. I know we're seeing that on the East Coast. There were, I think back in October, there were, gosh, I want to say between 30 and 50 overdoses, some fatalities in Cincinnati. It's called gray death. It's also called instant killer. And that's due to its lethality in humans, but also because it is a large mammal tranquilizer, frequently used to tranquilize elephants. So if you can think about what it would take to tranquilize an elephant, imagine how lethal that would be for a human. So in perspective, I couldn't find a good photo. If this is the amount of fentanyl that this little bit of white is what it takes to kill, is a lethal dose in a human. Imagine what that dose, that amount of carfentanil would be. So when we see people overdose or die from this, of course, it's almost always unintentional. And just speaking from, if I want to relate this to heroin use, almost always working with the adult population, but when we have somebody that says they've used heroin and we do a urine drug screen, it's not at all unusual to see fentanyl with that. Now, there are fentanyl strips you can get. So for someone that is a chronic heroin user, it's best to have fentanyl strips on hand that you can use to test the drugs that you have. If somebody is going to use, because it may prevent death.
We do have 2 more questions.
Yes.
First one, do we know where these street drugs originate? And then do we ever see these instances of overdoses in youth in Bloomington, or is this mostly from adults in Bloomington?
So I honestly don't know what the stats are for youth in Bloomington, but I would not be surprised because we have youth in Bloomington that use heroin. And if you're using heroin, you are going to be using fentanyl. The other piece of this is it is very common for fentanyl to be found in methamphetamine. It is there. We have plenty of people that use methamphetamine, and it is almost always laced with fentanyl. So it is, twofold. And that, of course, is is extremely dangerous. It's much more dangerous with heroin because you're putting these two opioids together. And so respiratory depression from CNS depression is pretty common. It's not all, you know, in the program that I'm working in, it's not unusual at all for us to have people use methamphetamine and then suddenly go down because it's been laced with fentanyl. So as far as where is it coming from, I think, you know, this is coming from drug dealers. This is coming from wanting to, so what happens is you know, when there's not enough opioid or not enough heroin, people that deal drugs want to produce an effective product, right? So they want the people they deal to be happy and get a quality product. The problem is the ratio of fentanyl to heroin is very unpredictable. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we see this wherever we see heroin coming from, wherever we see methamphetamine coming from. Okay. Anything else? So you know, as far as youth in Bloomington, I'm sorry, I don't have, you know, any statistics on that, but the danger is very real. Okay, and I know I'm running late, so I'll go more quickly. Refusal skills. How do you say no? How do you say no? When someone offers you a medication, a pill, it's just one, what do you say? I don't know if we have any youth that are here tonight that have experienced this. I would love to know.
I don't believe we do.
Okay. Well, these are standard refusal skills, just saying no, you know, leaving whatever scene you're at, making up an excuse, you know. A lie is okay in this instance when you're offered a drug, a prescription drug that is not yours, or one of these other illicit drugs. Using humor. If my parents ever found out, you know, I'd be grounded for the rest of my life. Changing the subject, suggesting something else to do, and just always getting out. I mean, more importantly is getting out, getting away from the situation. Oh, and how to dispose, you know, how are people disposing of prescription drugs? It's really important. You're all probably familiar with Take Back. This is just a short video regarding disposing of drugs.
We can't see anything yet.
Oh gosh, am I not sharing my screen?
No.
I so apologize. That might help. That might help. Now this is where we might have the same problem, but we'll see.
National Drug Take-Back Day is every 6 months nationwide. Thousands of DEA agents join together to make Take-Back Day a reality. Total weight collected, 11 million pounds and counting. This event provides an opportunity for Americans to prevent drug addiction and overdose deaths. An estimated 17 million Americans aged 12 or older misuse prescription drugs every year. More than half of people that misuse prescription pain relievers got them from friends or family. Throwing your prescriptions in the trash is how people get their hands on them. Throwing your medications down the drain can contaminate the water supply. So what's the right thing to do? Join thousands of Americans and take back your prescriptions. There are thousands of collection sites nationwide. Bring your unused prescriptions, no questions asked. To take back your unused prescriptions, locate a collection site near you at g.co/RxTakeback.
So obviously, there are places we can go. Do not throw your prescriptions in the trash. It is, it's just not okay. I know plenty of people that will dig through trash. Keeping old prescriptions around doesn't really make a lot of sense. I know a lot of people do that because, well, you know, I've got these pain pills that I had from surgery. Maybe I'll need them later for something. Get rid of them. That's typically where youth will find drugs. So, you know, what do we do? Where can I do this in Bloomington? There's a couple. Oh, sorry, guys. We don't want to see that again. We have a couple of places at the Solid Waste Management District down on South Walnut Street. I don't know, it says South Street. That's South Walnut Street. I obviously copy pasted this. And they're open Tuesday through Saturday. And the Bloomington Hospital has a disposal right outside the outpatient pharmacy in the lobby. That's 24 hours. You can come and you can dispose medications there. And I don't know if anyone has seen, I don't know if it's like an activated charcoal, but there are packs you can get that you can put pills in them and it will dissolve them. Has anyone seen those or tried those?
We had somebody in the chat said that you can purchase them at CVS.
Ah, great. And they work. I've gotten them from various meetings that I've been to and workshops, and they work. We've used them here in our addiction treatment center when a patient comes in and brings drugs with them and just hands them over to us. So they work. So if you need to have medications at home, as most of us do, I think the first thing is identifying what are medications that you have that have the potential to be abused or misused. And you know, particularly if you have somebody in the home that has a problem with substances, those meds should be locked up. They should be in a safe, secure place. And you know, I don't know if anyone has the, you can get a little safe. Gosh, the one I have, I ordered on Amazon. I think it was $30. It has a digital code, and I keep my medications in that. And that way I don't have to worry about if there are children in my home, if there are, that might get into them, you know, a teen or an adult that might have a substance use problem. And, you know, just to self-disclose, I am a person in recovery, and I know firsthand that this was a route that I used. Going into people's homes that I happen to be at and going straight to the medicine cabinet. So, you know, it's a real thing. Any questions? Oh, I'll look at the chat, guys. Okay, CDS. Any other questions, anyone? I apologize for running over.
Thank you for your transparency, Beth. This has been so informative. Thank you, Beth and Patricia.
Thanks, everyone. And again, I don't have my information up there, but I am in the IU Health System, and I'll share my email with Donna so that if anyone has any questions or wants any more information, I'm going to put it in the chat real quick. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide resources on substance use treatment or other information.